Good evening. It's late in the evening, early in the morning. It's almost 2:30 a.m. And this is my part six of my thoughts and musings on songwriting. And what I'm going to do in this video was requested by my friend and bandmate, Frank Kozak, from the Bohemian Mechanics. It's a song called Angel of the Bridge that we wrote in collaboration for a special side project album. We call ourselves Sickler Brothers, and the name of the album is Jersey Rain. And Angel of the Bridge is one of the songs on that CD or album, digital release. And I'm going to talk about how that song was put together and what that song is about and the songwriting method that I used in collaboration with Frank. That album, for the most part, Frank did all the musical tracks, and my job was mainly to sing, create melodies and lyrics and song ideas. Well, this song, Angel of the Bridge, and by the way, this is just one way that I write songs. I call it paraphrasing a story, where I read a story and I write a song about the story, but not plagiarizing it, but it's the subject matter and it's somewhat similar to the story. But a story is different than a story, and a story song is different than a story in a book. And I really enjoy short stories, and I've mentioned about how I equate short stories with songs. And I like some short story writers, and Edgar Allan Poe and O. Henry and Kurt Vonnegut, to name a few. And the guy that wrote the story that I based the song on was a writer by the name of John Cheever. And the name of the story was The Angel of the Bridge. And it was about a guy who both his brother and mother had phobias, but he didn't have any at the beginning of the story. His brother had an incredible fear of elevators, and his mother was afraid of plane crashings, being involved in a plane crash. But at a certain point in the story, he developed an acute phobia of bridges, and it started to run his life and ruin his life. And at one point, he was doing all kinds of things, like to avoid bridges, taking the long way around. He could make it over like short little old-fashioned bridges, but his big fear was the George Washington Bridge. And at one point, he had to cross the George Washington Bridge. It was something he had to do. And as he was on the bridge, he started to freak out, pulled over on the bridge, and the door opened of his car, and in got a girl, a young girl, and he noticed that she had something with her, and what it was a little harp. And he said, "Are you hitchhiking?" And she said, "Oh, yeah. I didn't think anybody would stop." And he said, "Well, it's kind of dangerous." And she said, "Oh, not for me." And she proceeded to talk to him and play songs on the harp, and all the way across the bridge. And when he got across the bridge, he realized that his fear of bridges was gone. And at the end of the bridge, he pulled over after the toll, and she got out, and he said, "Well, I could drive you to where you want to go." And she said, "That's okay," and vanished. And he just saw it as she had to be an angel, and he wanted to tell his brother, but he felt silly about, well, she had a harp. Great story, The Angel of the Bridge, and our song is called Angel of the Bridge. So you're dealing with those parameters. And again, it's just an idea that I have and I use, and maybe you could use it. And I'll tell you how I did it. Like the story, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the character in the story is driving along a road, starts to kind of not know where he is. And at one point, he ends up having to cross a bridge, but when he sees the bridge, he's struck with an incredible fear of crossing it. And In the song, an angel appears out of nowhere. She's got a harp, and she starts singing to him. The music was all put together by Frank, and it had a kind of a bluesy feel, Hendrix, in the vein of Little Wing. And when I listened to it, it didn't have a, it had a kind of a, what's the word? It wasn't real dark. You know, some blues songs are dark, and I like that, but it had a kind of a light to it as well. So I'd been trying to write the song "Angel of the Bridge" for years. Many drafts in books. You know, I just couldn't get it to flow. I couldn't get it to make sense in a song as compared from a story. You know, a shorter amount of time. You know, it might take you the song would go by in 4 minutes. You really couldn't read the story in 4 minutes. You might be able to read it in 20, 25, half hour. In the song, an angel appears out of nowhere. She's got a harp, and she starts singing to him, and more or less figuratively or symbolically takes his hand and gets him across the bridge and takes his fear away. Now, the angel thing, I've written a few songs about angels, and I know Jimi Hendrix wrote some songs about angels. It's not a religious song in that way. You could say that it's somewhat of a supernatural, spiritual in a way. So the character is taken across the bridge, and just like in the book, a short story, his fear is gone. And it just fit perfect with the music. And many of the songs that I wrote with Frank, we just have this thing where, like, we're writing it together, separately. Again, it's an idea to spark you to write a song. I've written maybe about 4 kind of what I call paraphrased story songs, and I had success with it. You know, I never know when I'm going to do that. Like I said, the Angel of the Bridge story I read, I don't know, 20 years ago, but it always stayed with me, and I tried to write it. There are some songs that I have tried to write for years, and then somewhere years later, after the first idea and maybe 10 different drafts in a lyric book and messing with chords and ideas, musical ideas, I'll come up with something. And I finally was able to write Angel of the Bridge, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad we did. And I hope this was somewhat enlightening. By the way, I'm doing this by candlelight. I ran out of sockets. I really can't plug the lamp in, so I searched the house for a candle, and here it is.